Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the West Coast Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Frias Guzman. And on today's episode 147, recording this on early Wednesday morning, just going to be doing, or just mainly going to be focusing on the Dodgers and the Lakers on this one, as the Lakers did have their full regular season schedule released. We'll talk a little bit about that, just kind of predictions on how many games they will win and so on and so forth. A little bit more about how the team overall just kind of looks. We'll talk about the Dodgers, as they just got off of their 11-game winning streak. Unfortunately, dropped one to the Marlins, won the other two games against the Marlins, and then unfortunately lost one against the Guardians last night. Got game number 2 going up against the Guardians tonight. So we'll talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about their playoff chances, just kind of how the team is looking overall for their playoff run that they're expected to go to make. And then we'll kind of even talk a little bit about the Raiders, as Aiden O'Connell has been probably one of the biggest talks this preseason. We'll talk a little bit about, just the Raiders overall and as a whole, as a team, just kind of how they're looking, how the team is kind of shaping up to go and get ready for the regular season. So we'll talk all about that on today's episode again. So it's episode 147. Just before I do talk about it, I do want to go in and just remind everybody that you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. It's going to be the same handle, West Coast Pod 702. Plus, you can find me on Facebook as well. It's just going to be the name of the podcast, West Coast Sports Podcast. You can also send me an email, westcoastsportspodcast@gmail.com. I know that that's a whole lot of stuff where you can follow me and find me, but if you have any questions, want to bring up some topics, want to talk about sports or whatever the case is, that's where you can find me. So with that being said, let's get right into the podcast here, guys. Let's go in and just talk a little bit about the Raiders as we go in and get the podcast rolling. So with the Raiders, if you guys haven't seen, we ended up winning, we ended up having that game against the Rams. Again, Aiden O'Connell looked really, really good in this game. A guy who was kind of like a walk-on at Purdue. He wasn't really recruited. He wasn't really heavily recruited or anything like that. It was mainly he just kind of walked in. He was a backup, if I'm not mistaken, and he ended up just kind of coming on in because their main guy ended up getting hurt. He never really. A lot of people were saying that, when he looked good, he looked good. When he looked bad, he looked really bad, kind of deal. And it's kind of, we haven't really seen much bad as of late because, dude hasn't missed a single pass. Like, any pass that he actually makes or that he attempts, he completes. Again, this is all preseason. I don't want to hype up anything on this, but overall, for a rookie quarterback to look this pretty good against actual NFL speed, because even though it's the preseason and everything, these guys are still going at full speed. You got legit NFL players who are coming at a rookie quarterback. He's trying to get adjusted to the speed, trying to get adjusted to his timing and so on and so forth. And I think he's done a pretty damn good job, if you ask me. Now, I really just want to see a little bit more of this guy. I really hope that it's not going to come down to whether if it's going to be him or Jimmy G, or I hope he's not forced into a situation like that where Jimmy G gets hurt this season and it's going to force Aiden O'Connell to go in there. Because I feel like and the only reason I bring that up, and I know that he's been looking really well, and I know some people are probably thinking, well, if he's playing good right now in the preseason, why not give him a shot in the regular season and see what we got? For sure, right? And I would 100% agree, but I think that would be too much too fast, if that makes sense. My main thing is, if you're going to give him some time to go ahead and sit behind a veteran quarterback, learn as much as possible before you actually send him out there, and let him know, hey, if things kind of go bad in the season, or things are kind of looking a little bit down in later on in the season, maybe we'll throw you in there, start you for about maybe. I really hope it doesn't go this way, because I'm thinking the only way Aiden O'Connell gets to start or gets to play the majority of the games, or even a good chunk of the games this season, is if things went very, very bad. Jimmy G gets hurt, team just doesn't work too well together, whatever the case is. That's the only reason why I can see Aiden O'Connell stepping in and playing. unless if he continues to play very, very well, and for whatever reason Jimmy G doesn't seem like he's ready to go, then that's where I can see the Raiders making the decision, hey, let's start Aiden O'Connell for a few games until Jimmy G is 100% and ready to go. Then we'll roll him out there and see how it goes. That's one thing that I can see happening, but we would have to go and wait to see exactly how things kind of play out with that. Otherwise, if you guys haven't really caught the team, I think we're doing a pretty damn good job. We got a lot of different weapons on this squad. We have some really good running backs that are going to be behind Josh Jacobs. And speaking of Josh Jacobs, it sounds like he's going to be ready to return next week to when it start, or I think a week before the week 1 of the regular season, just so we can kind of get some practice in him and get some burn and be able to kind of get back up to speed with the team, so to say. Now the other things, I mean, I've noticed we have a lot of different wide receivers that can definitely go ahead and play on this squad. I'm really going to be interested to see who's going to stick around. I think there's really only about maybe 4 of them that are for sure guarantees. My opinion, it would be, of course, Davante Adams, of course, Hunter Renfrow, and Jacoby Myers. Now, I've been hearing a lot of stuff about this guy. I think his name is DeAndre Carter. I've been hearing a lot about this other guy. Oh God, I can't even think about his name. But I've been hearing a lot about some of these younger guys, maybe rookies. Some of them even about a year or two into their career in the NFL, and they're actually showing up and they're doing some big, and they're showing us some that they have some big play capabilities. Some of them big time speeders, so another person that can just go downfield and be able to get a long pass. So definitely excited to go and see what kind of possibilities they have there in that wide receiver core. The defense as a whole, if you guys haven't seen them, they are looking a little bit better. It seems like you finally have some players that can actually go in and take the ball away, that can intercept some balls. My main thing is if you can come away with an interception that you're supposed to get, like something that's almost like a gimme, like something that's just floating up in the air and it was just completely overthrown from the receiver and it's just sailing towards you, that's an interception you should get. And seeing that the team is able to make those plays, that's what I want to see. At least you're able to get the interceptions, the plays, the turnovers that you're supposed to get. If you're able to do that, at least we can work with that and we could just build off of that, so to say, But I am excited to continue to see what this team is going to look like. I really just want the regular season to start already. I don't know if you guys are in the same boat I am. I'm really tired of these preseason games. Honestly, if they could do maybe 2 games and then just go right into the regular season, that would be awesome. But we'll see what happens. Last time we did that, they ended up with another regular season game. And I know that's maybe not what these players really want. But maybe they do, maybe they don't. I guess we'll have to see. But with that being said, guys, I do want to just transition on over to the LA teams, to the Dodgers and the Lakers, of course. We'll talk all about the Dodgers really quick, as there isn't a whole lot that I really want to bring up. I really would save that for another podcast. But just to get right into it, we can go right into talking about the Dodgers, as they did come away, unfortunately, with a defeat yesterday, going up against the Commanders. They are expected to go up against them today again for game number 2 of that series. Definitely thinking that we should be able to come away with the victory. But the Guardians, I mean, they're not any lackluster team, or they're not a team to just kind of ignore. But I would definitely want to go in and see that the Dodgers continue to build off of their lead that they have in their division. I think we're at an 11 and a half game difference right now from the Diamondbacks, I want to say. And it would be good to go in and just build off of that and make sure that we secure a playoff berth early in the season, not needing to go in and worry about so many of those games in September, and especially since a lot of those games in September are going to be in your same division. So I would want to go in and see that the Dodgers continue to just keep the foot on the gas pedal, go in and clinch playoff berth, see what you guys can do to make sure you keep your guys ready and healthy. But I don't want them to go in and be freaking, what's the word I'm looking for? It just reminds me of the prior season. Don't worry about getting the best record possible. Just get in there, working well, ready, in shape, and ready to go ahead and make a playoff run, make a playoff push. But we'll definitely see what happens when it comes down to that. Some of the players have been looking very, very well. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Walker Buehler. Sounds like he's going to be coming back and returning, so it'd be really great to have him back for the playoffs. That just puts another great starting pitcher now that we've been able to kind of work around our starting pitching and making sure that even our bullpen is looking really well. We have some really good players in our bullpen now because of that reason. One of the things, Clayton Kershaw, he's kind of had this new resurgence of himself. He looks like the Clayton of old, but maybe not so much because he has like a new pitch in that changeup that he's throwing a little bit more. But it's just interesting to go in and see that after all these years, though, Clayton has still been able to go in and remain the Dodgers ace. And I know there's plenty of other. There's Urias, who was definitely the ace at one point. You had a couple other players in there, even when we had Scherzer in here, we could argue that he was probably, but I don't think he was that amazing because I think he might have been hurt during that time that he was with us. But after all these years, Kershaw remains probably our best pitcher that we've had. I really just want to continue to enjoy the years and the time that he has with the Dodgers. But it would be just interesting, or it really would be awesome to go in and see that this team makes another deep playoff push, maybe even a chance for another World Series. Really great to go in and see this team with all these great players that have been with the team for quite some time now to get another championship. But we'll talk about that as it gets closer. September is right around the corner, so we'll talk about that as it gets closer and closer. With that being said, though, guys, let's go and talk about the team that I really wanted to talk about today, as they had their regular season, season, or all their games and everything, or their schedule drop the other day. So there has been some talks. If you guys look at it, there's, I want to say, like 15 doubleheaders where they're going back-to-backs, where they're playing 2 games, one right after the other, consecutive days. And it is what it is when it comes down to it. One thing I would say is that a lot of them are at home, or they're pretty close to home, where you're not having to do a whole lot of traveling in between the 2 days or something like that, or you're not having to be on the road for those extended amount of time, because usually, if I'm not mistaken, what the team usually does is if they're on the road, they go play, then they try to do whatever they can in order to make it on a plane to head on back that very same night, which is what I would do, honestly. But you have if you look at the season, at the schedule overall, a lot of people are talking about that. We have a lot of doubleheaders, that there's a lot of games on the East Coast and this and that, a lot of traveling and whatnot and blah blah blah. When you're a team that's on one coast or the other, it's going to be a lot of traveling regardless. If you're in the middle of it, maybe not so much. If you're in the middle of the country or something or whatever, maybe it's not so bad. But honestly, it is what it is when it comes down to it. Everybody knows that traveling is part of the league, part of how things need to get done overall. Without traveling, without being able to go in and get from team to team, to city to city, how are you going to be able to go and play? Overall, it is what it is when it comes down to it. If somebody's going to have to do it, you're going to have to play against these teams regardless. If you have to travel, I'm pretty sure the NBA has some great guys that work with logistics, and they found out that this is probably the best way to go in and do so. Whatever the case is, I'm just hoping that maybe it's not so bad, but we'll have to definitely see how the season goes on. I'm definitely thinking that when the season goes on, you'll get a better understanding of how taxing, how it actually is for the players, when they're having to go through this, or having to go through multiple cities of traveling and so on and so forth. But let's talk a little bit more about the season overall, just kind of what games, what stretches, what points of the season are exciting. Now, for me, if you see the beginning of the schedule, we have a couple of different teams. We start off with the Denver Nuggets, and we have the Suns, you have the Warriors, you have the Kings. You have a few different teams in there that are going to be pretty good teams, to say the least. These teams are going to be good teams in the NBA again, moving, for this year coming up. It's definitely going to go ahead and be interesting to go and see how we stack up against them this year. Some of them made some changes, some of them kind of stayed the same. For us, we kind of did a little bit of both. We kept our main core and we added some additional pieces that we think is going to go ahead and make the team overall just better. So we'll definitely have to go in and wait to see how those changes or not change or the lack of changes help out the teams, each individual teams. But I am thinking that that's going to give us a good understanding right off of the back as how good our team really is. Maybe not the very first game because it's ring night for the Denver Nuggets, and we already know that they're going to go ahead and people always say that whenever it's ring night, that the team receiving the rings tends to go ahead and just be more caught up in all the emotion and so on and so forth, so that they usually don't win. But we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. I'm pretty sure that the Denver Nuggets fans would not appreciate that, but we'll see. The other couple things here when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the schedule, I am excited for Christmas Day. I think that we have the Celtics. It'll be great to go ahead and see that. I'm honestly thinking that it's going to be the Celtics, maybe again, that are going to be pushing for another playoff run, possible championship run, but we'll have to go in and see what happens. That's how I felt last season, and look what happened. But what else can I say? The schedule, it's kind of rough. Especially with the type of team that we have, which is one of the things that I'm hoping that we can get another big man that's going to be able to relieve some of those minutes from AD. Which, by the way, he is looking like another different type of AD. Dude's looking super jacked, like super muscular and everything, and this and that. But I'm really wondering, like, how is his body going to be able to hold up? If it's going to be able to hold up with this transformation that he has. But for the most part, I'm just excited to see what he's going to look like. It looks like he's pushing for an MVP season this year, and I'll be excited to go and see that. I'm really thinking that he's going to kind of take the reins and kind of take ownership of the team, so to say, kind of making it seem like, or making it known that it's his team now, and that he's going to go ahead and be the ones going for the MVPs and the best player on the team and so on and so forth. But it is going to be, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a good idea of that right off in the back, right early in the season. One thing that I would be interested to see if AD is able to if AD is able to play at least 65 or more games, and I'm really thinking that that's going to be a big difference in how many games we win. If AD can play that many games, then I'm thinking we can at least win for sure 55 or 50 plus games this year with no problem. I think we ended up winning 40 something last season, still made the playoffs. I'm thinking we can for sure be in the 50s, if not pushing for the 60s. Well, no, 50s for sure. And once we get into the 60s, it's a little greedy, I think, if you ask me. But and especially with how much parity there is, especially in the West now, I'm really thinking that it's going to be more in the 50s, like closer to 55 than 60. Possibly closer to 50 than 55, but we'll have to definitely see what happens in the season. I am just excited for it overall. I really just want to go in and get it going. Sounds like there's still some talks about who we're going to be able to sign in the what's the word I'm looking for, in that center position. It sounds like it's either going to be Castleton, maybe even Jamel McGee, Christian Wood possibly, but I don't know, there hasn't been any kind of headway in any of these trades for the James Harden trade. Even Joel Embiid has kind of now said that maybe he might want to be traded. There's Damian Lillard who might be traded, all kinds of different moves that can happen here. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to all that. We will just kind of keep you guys posted on it, and if anything big does happen, definitely expect a podcast. But until then, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Hope you guys will continue to go ahead and listen. Thank you for everybody who has been listening. I'll talk to you guys next time. Enjoy yourselves. Have a good Wednesday. Peace.